My name's John, I'm an addict.
Hi, John.
It's good to be in a meeting, it's good to be in a new meeting, it's good to see some old faces, it's good to see some new faces. I was on holiday with Roz, he was down in Spain, and it was cool, and like, she says, I'm not coming back. She fucking knew she weren't coming back. And she said, could you do step 2? And I said, okay, I'll do step 2, just go back, because I don't want to say I'm not coming back, and I ain't got a chair. Do you know what I mean? So I'll just say, like, I've got a chair, but I ain't coming back to this meeting. It's half this thing, you know what I mean? So anyway. But, when you're asked to come to a step chair, it focuses the mind. You kind of start thinking to yourself, okay, what's this all about? You sit on a plane, you smell, have a little pink or whatever, And step 2, and I was just thinking about it, and like, when the reading was, there's just some great stuff in that. Thanks for reading that, it's really good stuff. And my thing is, it's about kind of trying to simplify stuff, because I'm a very complicated guy and I need to simplify stuff. If I make things too fucking cosmic, I get in trouble. I get in trouble really quick, So if I so when I came into the program, I went to a meeting. I'm 34 years clean. I can't apologise for that. It's all right. With addicts, there's a part of you which kind of sort of, I'm sorry about being 34 years clean, But that's the reality of it. I went to a meeting about 34 and a half years ago, and I was sat in this meeting, and there was all these people talking, and it was absolutely insane. And people were talking about kind of doing intravenous heroin, talking about prison centres, talking about all sorts of stuff that didn't really kind of like register with me. But people said to me, can you control your use of any chemical? Can you control it? Once you start, could you control it, right? And the answer was no. If I'd done coke, I got very paranoid. And I do more. That's the insanity of it, If I smoked puff, I got really fucking, lost. But I do more. If I kind of drunk, I drank till I was in blackout. I didn't know where I'd been, what I'd done. I'd do prescription pills and I forgot to take them, and then I'd take more prescription pills and wonder why I was whacked out that day, And a combination of all that stuff. But what people said to me, that thing about once too many, 1,000 never enough, can you control it? Can you control it? That's what we're asking people here, can you control it? And people said to me, when you use, you don't satisfy a craving, you create a craving. You kind of sort of like, you kind of like, your momentum builds. You can't negotiate this with powers. You can't say, I'm going to do drugs at the weekend, I'm going to do drugs when they're around, I'm going to do this drug, that drug, whatever. I took drugs I didn't like with people I didn't like, and that was trying to control it. I was trying to control it, but I never succeeded in controlling it. What happens when I do drugs is I get very, very ill, but I still do it. Mentally, physically, spiritually, I get really fucked up, but I still do it, because I'm insane around drugs, A lot of areas of my life I'm kind of quite sane. Around drugs, I'm fucking, whatever it is, whether it comes from genetics, whether it comes from environment, whether it comes from trauma, whatever it was, when I start doing drugs, I cannot fucking stop until I kind of really, I'm in a real mess, and I'm throwing fits, and I'm paranoid, I want to chop my ears off and fucking do mad stuff. That's where it takes me. Then I'll go quiet for about a month. I'll go to the gym. This time, fit as a flea, fucking suntan, or have sunglasses. I think, well, I can do it all over again, can't I? I mean, giving it a month. Fuck's sake, start getting buff. And when I went in and I had one vodka and tonic or something like that, drinking one vodka and tonic, I thought, well, it's going to be okay this time. And I could have passed the lie detector test. I really sincerely believe, that's the insanity. I sincerely believe this time it's going to be different. Despite the fact that all my using's been that mad, fucking insane using. And when I was getting clean, there was a lot of guys, sort of like people started doing E's. There's all sort of, there was a football hooligans, and they was kind of doing E's, and they were selling E's, and there was a lot of drugs around. And strangely enough, there's people who've done far more drugs than me, but they weren't addicts. They was caners. I wanted to be a caner, but I was an addict. You know what I mean? And they used to say to me, "You've got to treat this stuff with respect. You've got to treat it with respect, John. You're just all fucking, you're greedy fucker. You know what I mean?" Yeah, I'm a greedy fucker, I'm a mad fucker. And I came from, I watched my mum. My mum used to tell us that we come from another planet, a planet called Arnunes. And she had this very kind of sort of like elaborate, complex fantasy of what went on and how we got here and all that. And I'd go to school and tell the people at school, well, no, we're from another planet, and people say, fucking your family's from another planet. You know what I mean? It's kind of shaming, you know what I mean? And sort of like, so anyway, that's if I grew up, and then we'd be putting Catholic orphanages for care. What the fuck? What do they care? They would look after you there. Like then what they're going to do is terrorise you. So I grew up with all this trauma. So if you said to the kids in my class at school, do you think that John Connolly fella would end up a drug addict? They say, fucking nailed on, mate. Well, alcoholic, nailed on. Of course he will, right? So I turned up in their meetings. But see, here's the thing, right? It's like, I wasn't neglecting my feelings when I turned up in their meetings. I had no idea what my feelings were. In this recovery business, I'd be able to name my feelings. I've been able to, if someone says to me, how you feeling, I can't accurately 100% tell you, but I've got a vocabulary that I've learned here to explain what goes on, and that's part of step 2, you know what I mean? So the second part, step 1 for me, right, is like the unmanageability of my life, right? Okay, I lived in a flat and it looked like I've been fucking had card schools or parties or some kind of shebeen going on. People come round and say, who have you had round? And I've just been in there, like on my own, using 4 or 5 days at a time. And, you know, going slowly mad, right? And then, but the second part of step 1, right, is the unmanageability of my life, right? Okay, so, you know, my finances are all over the place, you know, and all the rest of it. But the unmanageability, I can't manage my emotions. I have nowhere to go to manage them. No one to tell, no meetings. So I'm just fucking firing off all over the place. I see everything through a filter of trauma, resentment, and defects. That's how I see the fucking world. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of sort of how I operate, right? I feel like I was talking to my sponsor one day, so I've got this terrible fear of being overrun, abused, humiliated, laughed at, fucking having a piss sandwich stolen from. And he says, you've got a fear of these things happening again. There's a part of me that wants to see, you know what I mean? When I come into recovery, to a degree it was an amnesty. I thought I could start again. I come to these meetings now. I've read the books, obviously, right? But what works for me, right? What restores me to sanity is when I come through the door, right? And everyone here tonight, right? We've admitted we've got a problem, and we've come through that door. We've come. First part of step 2 is what we come, right? We come through the door. We sit down, and what we're admitting, right? We've got a problem. And we're looking for a solution. We're looking for, you know, like it might not be sort of like handed to us on a plate, but sitting here in this meeting. What works for me, right, as part of my higher power is the empathy of the group. When people start to tell me about their successes, their failures, you know, when they get it right, when they get it wrong, what they struggle with, how they fucked up, you know what I mean, and the rest of it. That's what kind of restores me to sanity. There's something of power here in this room, you know what I mean, when we kind of sort of, when we come to meet and we talk about our stuff, you know, the open-mindedness, you know what I mean. And it's what I needed all my life, without knowing it, you know what I mean? Because the thing about me, and I think a lot of addicts, right, is like I'm incredibly resilient, I'm incredibly productive, I'm incredibly, you know what I mean, I'm incredibly kind of like strong guy. And another part of me is incredibly delicate, incredibly fucking fragile, and there seems to be nothing in between. So I fucking move, I oscillate between these two fucking extremes on any given moment, not any given day, any fucking moment, you know what I mean? So I need restoring to sanity, you know what I mean? And these key rings is like, you know what I mean, someone years ago says, oh, we should give key rings for steps. I said, okay, great idea, right? My step 2 has evolved, and I've had to work step 2 on certain areas of my life, whether it's romance, whether it's kind of relationships, whether it's sex, whether it's money, whether it's whatever, you know what I mean? I have to kind of keep working this stuff, right? Because what seems to happen with me, right, is like I have no save button. Do you know what I mean? I have no kind of save, you know, sort of like, okay, all right, come leave the meeting feeling great, right? Wake up the next day, right, and my illness somewhere in my dreams has sort of like decided that we're going to fucking find something to sort of like land on, you know what I mean? And so when it talks about in the book, you know, it says, you know, essentially what you need to do is what I need to start doing was something would work for me. And I hadn't had hope for quite a long time before I come to these meetings. I thought I was a write-off. I thought my family illness was schizophrenia, not addiction. And I still think there's a degree. I think if I started using drugs, I could end up in mental health problems very quickly. You know what I mean? There's a lot of mental health stuff in my family. You know what I mean? My mum had it, my brother's got a bit of it, you know, there's a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? So I come to these meetings because I need to be restored to sanity. Now, because I had this thing about, you know, if someone says, like, we'd be fucking about and we'd be doing coke or we're sitting around smoking and someone would go, oh, you're fucking mad, you are. I'd go, what do you mean I'm mad? I'm fucking mad. What do you mean I'm fucking mad? You know what I mean? I've got this real fear that there's a word for it, something phobia, madness phobia, or whatever. I've got this real fear of being called mad, right? So when I came here, I said, oh, okay, looking at them steps, I don't like this word insanity. I don't like this kind of thing, because if saying restored to sanity, it says I'm mad. And I didn't think I was mad, right? Then people started saying to me, write some examples of your using, right? Write some examples. I went out that day and and I ended up in a fight in a kebab house and all that. And go, did you go out intending to have a fight in a kebab house? Did you intend to do that? My using was fucking, like all our using, it was insane. So I needed to sort of like, you know, just kind of see that for what it was. Do you know what I mean? And then sort of like, so I came to these meetings, my higher power is sort of like, it's sort of like, I think what I always needed to tend to do, right, try and do is just simplify. And essentially, right, I started to believe that I could get well, I could live a productive life, I could have decent relationships, I could live in a clean house, I could fucking go on holiday, I could come back. You know what I mean? And that's what, you know what I mean? And it was other people, you know, our predecessors, if you like, you know, kind of said to us, look, when I came in here, I was very cynical about it. And then something changed. And I don't know what changed, but I think it was people kind of started telling their stories and talking about their resistance. Because if I went to meetings and everyone was a bit clappy, happy, and never have a bad day, I'd very quickly start to feel very isolated. Because I struggle with life. You know, I struggle with myself. I struggle with kind of sort of like talking about this stuff. It's all I come from that, you know, a traumatised place, which I've done a lot of work around, you know what I mean? I'm not so traumatised now, you know what I mean? So I'm, you know, and so I keep coming to these meetings because I bump into people every now and again, and they say to me, I don't go to their meetings anymore, there's nothing for me, you know, I got clean, there's nothing for me. And that's kind of up to them, but I kind of need to come to these meetings. A guy said to me years ago, he said to me, you know you'll always need NA more than NA needs you. And I said, I wasn't offended, but my ego was really offended, you know what I mean? I thought, you cheeky fucker. You cheeky fucker, you know what I mean? Because it's true. It's fucking true, you know what I mean? It's like, I need to keep coming here. Because I kind of have this kind of, it's like, when I come, it's like, you know, when I come to these meetings, right, I'm a kind of reserved guy. I'm a bit, you know, I'm not one of those guys, I felt, you know, you meet him, you have dinner with him, you know, you felt like you've known him all your life, you know what I mean? That's the guy I am. And when I come to meetings, I'm slightly like shaking hands with people and stuff like that. And on the way out, I want to hug people. Now, something's changed. Something's kind of sort of like spoken to me. Something's kind of made me feel safe in these meetings, you know what I mean? So, and that's what I was looking for all my life, is a place of safety, and I didn't know it. This is what I mean, I didn't know all this when I came here, you know what I mean? I just felt really awkward, self-obsessed, loads of fucking resentments. Why do I fucking hate people? I want to be a cool guy, but I've just got this fucking anger, you know what I mean? And what the programme has given me is the opportunity to sort of like, in step 3, you know, when he talks about, turned out, you know, will allow life purpose to care. I allow people to care for me. You know what I mean? Which sort of like, we have a step 2 essentially is asking for help and continue to ask for help. And sort of like step 3, I think, is about accepting the help. And I'm not very good at accepting the help. So I need a whole fucking step around that, you know what I mean? And I've broken all this stuff down, you know what I mean? I've talked about resentments, I've talked about, you know, my trauma, I've talked about where I see the world, you know what I mean? And a lot of stuff has shifted, you know what I mean? When I came into recovery, I would have said to you, I'm a very unlucky guy. And in recovery, I've been really, really lucky. I've made a lot of my own luck, but I've been really, really lucky. If you're new, so you look. I used to look at these steps, and it's like they was written in Latin. You know what I mean? And it's like they seem to be impenetrable, and no one's going to tell you what to think, what to do. But what people will tell you is what they've done. And you know, if you keep coming to meetings, you know, I mean, it's like. I sometimes think we have to kind of sort of like believe, you know, because I've got to believe this 100%, I've got to be all the way in, or the disease is going to get me, you know what I mean? You don't. You know what I mean? You do not, you know, don't be scared of the God word, because there's a lot of people in this fellowship, right, who tell me that they don't believe in God, but they know right and wrong. And they're decent people, and I want to hang out with them. And there's a lot of people tell me they're fucking, I've got God and all that. I run a mile from them. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, you know, and my God is sort of like kind of about, certain people land on the good part of me, certain people just fucking drive me nuts. You know, they don't bring out the best in me, put it like that, you know what I mean? So I hang out with the people. And archaic as it might sound, you are the company you keep. You know what I mean? It sounds like something your granny would say, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, so, but I hang out with people who kind of sort of like, they're not snide about me. You know, I'm good at being snide about myself. I don't need other people to be fucking snide about me, you know what I mean? So I keep coming back, and I keep needing to be restored to sanity. I really need to kind of like right-size things and reset things time and time and time and time again. You know what I mean? And they used to say this thing, you know, people don't say it so much anymore. They say, we're here because we're not all here, right? We're the mad ones, right? If you go home and you watch the first 10 minutes of the news, right, you'll think, no, we're the fucking sane ones. Do you know what I mean? We're dealing with our problems. You know, the thing with recovery for me, right, is like, I wrote step 4, right, when I was about sort of like, I don't know, 25, 26 years clean. One of the resentments was I resent NA because it's taken away all my excuses. One by one, there's no one to blame anymore. I can't fucking blame other people for my problems, you know what I mean? So here I am, you know what I mean? Here I am, you know, come to meetings. I actually love meetings. I've never found them mature. Do you know what I mean? I've really never found them mature. You know, I go 3 meetings a week. I like the energy of recovering addicts. I don't like the energy of using addicts, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I'm an old guy now. I'm a pensioner. You know what I mean? I don't like mad energy. You know what I mean? I like kind of like that kind of crazy energy you get from sort of like recovering addicts. You know what I mean? They're very alive, recovering addicts. You know what I mean? And I think I'll leave it there. You know, if you're new, just keep coming back. Just keep coming back, because things change. You start getting other options. All of a sudden, other options start to appear. You know, you start to think yourself, I can do this. You don't have to do everything in one day. You don't have to be sort of like a guru. You don't have to be anything. You just got to kind of keep tipping up, you know what I mean? And before you know it, you know what I mean? It's like this beautiful bit in that book where it talks about the addict 2 days clean can help the addict 1 day clean. And sometimes you get people that go, I'm only 30 days clean. 30 days clean is colossal. It's fucking colossal. Do you know what I mean? These are the hard ones. Once you get, I'm not being funny, once you get sort of, you know, it's like fucking driving a car, you tap the accelerator. Do you know what I mean? After a while. You keep coming to meetings, you have a sponsor, you have sponsors, you know what I mean? It's just like, I'm not saying it's easy, life's hard, but recovery becomes easier. You know what I mean? The same way sort of like they talk about our illness is progressive, our recovery is progressive. if we keep doing it, you know what I mean? And like I was on holiday, you know what I mean? And when I came in, I was very feral. I didn't know I was feral. I was wild. I was mad. You know what I mean? But who knows, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm just still fucking... I can pretend better to be a bit sophisticated. And I'm just a loon at heart, you know what I mean? I'm still a chancellor, I'm still a fucking, you know, scallywag. I'm still, you know, I haven't sort of like, you know, I'm not becoming a magistrate anytime soon, you know what I mean? That's it, you know, if I could get away with working and signing, not I would, you know what I mean? I'm that guy. That's where I come from, you know what I mean? But I'm not using drugs and I'm not causing chaos in my life or other people's lives. I mean, this is what's on offer here. You know, thanks for listening. Thank you.
Thanks, John. My name's Elaine and I'm an addict.